What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and this is the video that I know a lot of people have been asking for the showcase of the brand new Sabo character from the New Year's Super Sugo Fest. This character's video has been delayed a little bit because, man, honestly speaking, this character just doesn't really do that much. It's weird to say, because I feel like the captain ability of this unit and the EX super of this unit is actually, like, not too bad. It's pretty solid, I feel. Like, it's decent. You know, you got a bit of utility there, you got some pretty decent damage output. He does make tandem slots matching, which is obviously a really cool effect. You can get a high multiplier, of course, and he has some interesting abilities. But the real issue is that I feel like his special just really doesn't do anything. And it's crazy for a New Year's legend of this caliber, right, to come out in 2024 heading into 2025. This character is very underwhelming. The real issue really comes from the fact that the whole point of this unit existence is because of the recent addition of a new gimmick into the game called class weakness or weak class status, whatever it's called. What do they call it in the game? Advantageous class effect, whatever that means, right? This specific effect occurs when an enemy has a little icon above their HP, where the amount of damage that certain classes do to them is enhanced. And what this Sabo does is, you know, typically if an enemy has that buff, means that certain classes do more damage to that enemy. So Sabo amplifies the magnification of that specific debuff. Of course, there is no way to inflict an enemy with class weakness. You have to just hope an enemy has that when you enter the piece of content. So due to that, Sabo's whole gimmick of class weakness doesn't really apply to basically all content in the game, aside from more modern released content that specific gimmick will arrive in. And because of that, it means that Sabo really isn't a character you should be using to complete old content. Sabo really is only going to be a character that's going to be pretty decent against content that comes out in the future. And it is a bit of a shame because more modern content that actually has this class weakness debuff effect doesn't really rerun all that much, if at all. Which means that Sabo really is only going to see play whenever new content comes out. So the withstanding content in the game, you can pretty much ignore using Sabo for that content. Of course, I do go out of my way in this video with 3 different clips showing you, stuff you can do with him, I suppose. But man, this character has a very weird design, and I do think they kind of missed the mark here. I think that this character should have potentially had an effect that could inflict the enemy with class weakness. If he did have that, this character would be way better. Even if they reduce the magnification of his class weakness buff that he applies, if they just reduce the multiplier that he would give, but then give him another ability on top of that, like set target status or something, where it gives extra damage to your fighter and cerebral characters, because characters like Cross Guild or characters like Shiryu, for example, these units that have come out in 2024 with class weakness, not class weakness, should I say, set target status, that effect is incredibly strong, and it just enables this character to be used in more wide variety of content. So yeah, they really missed the mark here, and why I personally feel this character is just a bit of an L. The thing is, though, is that we haven't really had a lot of time to use him against enemies that have class weakness debuff, because the amount of damage that he does give your team is actually absurd. Like, this guy can do some crazy stuff for your squad. As long as the enemy has class weakness for fighter cerebral, this is probably going to be a mainstay for high damage content against those types of enemies. So I'm 100% expecting in the upcoming Super Boss Kizuna in January that there is going to be enemies that have class weakness against fighter and cerebral, and Sabo is going to be an absolute beast for that specific piece of content. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what he's all about. But in terms of what he actually does with his special ability, it also does a bit of damage. It doesn't go through normal attacks only. He does have a little piece of utility. He does allow you to remove 10 turns of Special Bind and 10 turns of Burn. He also has the ability to resist Special Bind in his captain and as a crewmate, and he has the Fear Reduction potential ability, meaning no matter where you put him on your team, he's going to have a really high chance of avoiding the Special Bind on your crew, and then using his special ability will remove it on your other characters. He does also grant Territory buff, which is a nice damage bump for your cerebral characters. The territory is pure cerebral, so if you run 6 characters that are cerebral on your squad, when he gives you the territory bonus, it will give a 25% damage bump to your cerebral characters and a 25% damage reduction. So that is obviously a really nice bonus. Now, he does actually have chain multiplicative buff. However, the way you get this chain multiplicative buff is actually really difficult. So you need to have Advantageous class effect boost, which is what Sabo applies with his special, or you need 5 turns of tap timing bonus damage. Now, the issue with that is that there's only 2 characters in the game that have a special that applies 5 turns of tap timing bonus damage. One is the Memories Legend Frankie, and the other one is the Psy Rare Recruit Brûlé that came out like multiple years ago. So there isn't really an effective modern way to apply that tap timing bonus damage. Of course, there are characters with their EX supers that can do that, such as the new Strength Luffy, or the super evolution of the waifu characters that came out for the New Year celebration. However, no one can get that waifu 6+ until May in 2025, unless if you pull on that Sugo Fest. So just really weird design decisions for this Sabo. They've really made it inaccessible to actually use all of the abilities on this character. I really don't comprehend what they have done with this unit. So moving past that, if you have those buffs applied, you can get a 1.5 chain multiplicative buff, and that chain multiplicative buff can actually be buffed 2 separate times. So I guess that's kind of neat, but there's no real characters in this batch that kind of buff the chain multiplicative buff to my knowledge. Could be missing something there, but yeah, a bit of a weird effect that he has there. And then finally, it says that Cerebral and Fighter characters can get Advantageous class effect up to a 3 times bonus based on the outcome of the action special. So he does have the action special. You can get it to 3.0 multiplier for increased class effect Advantageous thingy-majiggy. That is a really strong effect if the enemy has it. If they don't have it, then this kind of effect is redundant against all pieces of content. So poor Sabo, man, he just chilling here. I do think that against like most content in the game, he is the weakest of all of the New Year's characters that have come out in this celebration. But the thing is when there is content with weakness class for fighter and cerebral characters, this guy will be really good against that type of content. Furthermore, Sabo does have a super tandem ability. Unfortunately, the super tandem requires you to tap with 3 of the listed characters. And the thing is his EX Super only requires 2 of the listed characters, but the Super Tandem requires 3. So again, I feel like that's a really bad design decision, because if you're going out of your way to build a team for Sabo with that EX Super, because if you're not using the new Luffy and the new Ace in this batch, it's actually kind of annoying to try and build for this. Like, if you're trying to build Mono Cerebral, that is, because you want to be building Cerebral predominantly if you want Sabo to shine. Because that's his whole territory is focused around Cerebral. He doesn't have an ability to change characters into Cerebral class, which I think would have been a pretty interesting bonus with his territory buff. So it just means that if you're trying to build with the character list in mind for his Super Tandem or his EX Super, whilst also using Cerebral characters, the list of characters you actually have access to that make this team kind of work is very minimal. There are a couple of really good characters that are standouts, specifically Robin and Koala is a god tier unit for Sabo, helps in a lot of different ways. A lot of the Robins obviously are really solid units overall, but there's not a lot of good Revolutionary Army characters for the Cerebral class. There's a couple, but it's really minimal. And then of course you got characters like Dadan, who doesn't really have a lot of representation. No real good Garp Cerebral units either. Bartholomew Kuma needs more representation in the game too. It just feels like this was like a character they thought of last minute that they wanted to tack onto the celebration. That's just what it feels like. Just personally speaking, that's the way I kind of feel. So yeah, Sabo, I think right now is a little bit hard to place, a little bit hard to use, but I think that he does have a lot of upside potential that he could be used in more content in the future. But as for right now, I think that we have to wait and see how good / bad this character will be. But the Super Tandem, if you do get that to activate, he does provide like a 3 times damage bonus. So even though you're tapping with so many characters, the damage bump that he gives you is actually quite incredible, being up to a 3 times bonus at level 5, and also amplifying the multipliers of int recovery and tandem slots, which is pretty neat. So we'll see what happens, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.
世界のてっぺんに地獄があるとは